All right, Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Big Daddy Liberty Show. As I just adjust my levels, goodness me, I'm very loud. Uh, good evening, welcome to it, everybody. This will be a relatively quick show. There's no guests. There's no one is going to join us. We're just going to have a conversation. You and me. I want to have a conversation on what is effectively reasonably speaking, the most interesting breaking news that has uh, unfolded on a political front. And it speaks to something which here on this show, perhaps we've spoken about before, insofar as I've always argued that there's going to be a significant realignment to South African politics. Things are not always going to be the same. And I did say that the biggest changes you might see, and you will likely see, will come from the sort of political left, the left side of things, as I always argued that they are the most unstable, even if they are the most loud aspect of South African politics. And I have been proven right once again, insofar as the breaking news. Today, the announcement coming from the deputy president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, yes, those red in tooth and claw communist political party, basically saying, cheers, sayonara, he's out. Floyd Shivambu announcing, of course, that he is hanging up his boots, figurative boots, his gum boots, maybe I should say, from the EFF and joining the party that is formed literally last year in December, headed by Jacob Zuma, the Umkhonto weSizwe party. Now, before I get into any of that, where are my manners? Let me just remind you again, my name is Usihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. This is the Big Daddy Liberty Show. As I always do at the beginning of every show, I ask you to please, smash that like button, whether you're watching this broadcast on Facebook, X, or on YouTube. Hit that like button and help me grow my engagement, especially if you're streaming in. Let me know where you're watching from in the comment section. It's always a great way to interact with you guys. Speaking about interactions, you, of course, are very much a part of the show. Your comments are very welcome. We'll flight those across the screen in the next 25 minutes or so of the show. And of course, if you love this content, hey, do me a favor, then subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Help me grow my numbers. My goal, of course, is to reach, is it 46,000 now, subscribers by the end of the year. And whilst you're doing that, you can also find more on me and the channel at our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. Now, with that being said, let's get into tonight's broadcast, because I think there's going to be a few interesting things that we discuss here, because there is going to be more spillover from this announcement by Floyd Shivambu. It's not going to end here, and it's going to have serious ramifications for, as I said, the political left broadly, and for three distinct political parties: the EFF, the MK Party, and ironically, the ANC. So let's unpack all of this by taking a step back and answering the question, what exactly happened today at the particular press briefing, by the EFF after that announcement from Cyril Ramaphosa, after that announcement by Floyd Shivambu that he's leaving the EFF. Now, you've got to understand something. Floyd Shivambu leaving the EFF is big news, insofar as he's one of the two people that founded that political party. That's right. Him and Julius Malema literally founded this political party over 10 years ago and have grown it to be a reasonably successful political enterprise, with it having about 9% of the South African vote in this country. So it's not a small political party, and it's not a small feat to then have one of your founders literally ditching the party in the dramatic fashion that he did. But as I said, there is a sense here that, and as we asked in the title of the show, I make the argument, as I will tonight, that Malema is not stupid. he's not naive either when it comes to politics. He knows that this is the beginning of potentially the opening, the dam wall opening, if you will, and the water gushing out of that political party. And his reaction to the departure of Floyd Shivambu is telling, insofar as if you watched that press briefing this morning, he looked like he was on the verge of tears. Hashtag Zakhala in the EFF. The man looked very bleak and very, very sad. And I'm of the view that the sadness wasn't just about Floyd leaving the party, but also a realization by him that this is the beginning of something. We often talk about, oh, is the ANC going to split? Is the DA going to this or that? But one of the things we never speak about, because perhaps it's never been a feature before, is questioning whether we're going to see a further fragmentation, a further splitting within the broad political left, especially as there is more quote unquote diversity there now, insofar as various other political formations that are leftist, MK Party being the biggest so far of those. You have the African Transformation Movement, you have the PAC having made a somewhat of a comeback, and there are various, as I said, other formations allowing for someone who holds leftist views to maybe have some choice as to what they can choose to enter. In this case, a lot of that choice is moving towards the MK Party. Now, the question then becomes, and I'm going to play some clips here just to show you, there's two arguments I'm making here. The first being, Malema is not naive. He knows that this will be the beginning of a massive exodus from the EFF party. And his sadness, I contend, isn't so much about lamenting Floyd Shivambu leaving, but lamenting that his power base might be eroding. This is him speaking in reaction to the news that Floyd Shivambu is leaving the party at this morning's press briefing. Watch.
For you to accept the decision of the Deputy President of the EFF, who has voluntarily resigned his positions and did not renew his membership. When he sent me a letter yesterday, I felt the same pain when I received the news of the passing away of my mother. Because Floyd, to me, is not just a comrade, he's a brother. And he will remain a brother even when he pursues his political career differently. We formed this organization together. And I've told him that resigning from the EFF is equal to resigning from himself, because this is his organization. The constitution of the EFF does not allow people to resign and join other political parties and come back to the party. But I've made this offer to Floyd, that the day you decide to come back, you are more than welcome, because you are not a member, you are a founder of this political party.
Okay, so a couple of things there. Number one, you can see exactly what I was saying earlier on. He looks bleak. He looks very, very sad. And it's a far cry from the usual, they will be doing this and that high energy. The man looks very low energy, very depleted, very, very bleak outlook for him. Because as I said, it's more the politics than the emotions of what's happening that's eating at him. And the politics is the optics of having someone who co-founded your party, who's literally your second in command, ditching you after what has been, at least for the past 3 months, from the election results to now, a succession of bad news in the EFF. Firstly, them regressing from the previous elections results and even coming in at a lower percentage as they did this election cycle, number one. Number two, them being pipped basically from the news cycle by a newcomer, an absolute Johnny come lately. So Johnny come lately that that the party was literally formed in December last year, the MK Party, washing the EFF from the shores of political relevance in this country to a large extent. And number three, a situation where if you really look at it from a political perspective, the EFF party was heading towards an elective conference, is heading towards an elective conference later this year. So this begs questions around what is happening internally within the EFF, where you can have a co-founder of the party saying, you know what, it's actually better for me to leave this party, perhaps like a rat leaving a ship, because they recognize it might be sinking, that it might not even be worth contesting for the leadership of the EFF. These are the three things that I'm arguing are why you see Malema looking as dejected and unhappy and as bleak as he is in that video. Now, that's the first three observations I made from this. But there's a fourth observation. And this one is the interesting part because it speaks to perhaps answering the question around why. Why does Floyd Shivambu see it necessary in his perspective to leave the party now? Well, the answer comes in that very video and what Malema says, which is that always the common trope that is often thrown about or said about the EFF, that it flip-flops or it chops and changes, and decisions are seemingly made at the whim of Julius Malema, an almost dictatorial type leadership, an authoritarian and dictatorial type leadership of Malema. And it's exemplified in what Malema actually says, ironically, in that press conference. Did you hear what he said around that the EFF has a constitution that has certain rules? The rule he cites, of course, that he mentions is that if you leave the EFF to join another political party, that you're not allowed to come back. That is according to Malema, the rules within the EFF. But in the very next sentence, he then proceeds to say, well, actually, I then said, well, actually, no, I decided that, hey, if Floyd decides to come back, I will let him back into the party. What? How? How? If your political party has certain rules that are enshrined in a constitution of the party, a constitution that's meant to govern everybody in the party, how do you then make a rule that literally says, well, actually, in this one instance, because you happen to be a co-founder, insert reason, I will then bring you back into the party if you ever decide to come back? Okay. What if I was an ordinary member of the EFF? Would I have that same privilege or right to have that same allowance given to me? This is part of the problem. This is part of the problem when people look at their place in the EFF and how it's managed and led from the top. It seems to be one rule for a set of rules for them as the elites within the party and another set of rules for the rest of the party. Let me be precise and specific. We were told that, if just two examples that come to mind, Malema once said, if the EFF doesn't build a certain school that it promised to the residents of Alexandra that, don't vote for us as the party, that would be an expression of our failure as leadership. Where is that school today? Was there any accountability for Malema saying that? Did he resign? Did he show any form of taking personal accountability? No, he's still the leader today. And no one even questions that. And that's part of the problem, perhaps. Okay, fine, he might say that's one example. And often people say, oh, no, you can't use that example, Big Daddy, because, when he made that promise, it was before COVID. Okay, fine. Let's move to another example. Why is it that when certain members of that party were unable to bring, for example, the people to the that massive bash that the EFF had ahead of the elections at the FNB Stadium, where some people failed to bus in others, and they were swiftly cut out of the party, or if there was a regression of numbers, party numbers in a province, in a ward, or whatever, those people seem to be swiftly gotten rid of, right? As was the case in Limpopo, when the entire executive was just scrapped, as was the case in KZN, where one of their most hardworking, arguably, organizers in that part of the world, the one Vusi Khoza, was unceremoniously dumped out of the party by Malema et al. It seems everybody else had to follow rules, had to have accountability, except Malema, who's at the very top of that organization, which all of those flops happened under his leadership. Yet there was zero accountability for him, but all the accountability in the world for other people. People are not stupid. I'm going to say that again. People are not stupid, including those people who are members of the EFF. Now, leave aside for a moment whether, my own personal views about the EFF and their terrible ideology of communism and filthy socialism. Leave that aside for a moment. Let's just look at the straight facts of what's happening. People are beginning to see that this party is not as democratic as they think it is. And the utterances of Malema are beginning to be, let's just say, seen with those within that party. There's a video clip I was going to play here of Malema speaking outside of the East London High Court, was the Magistrates Court, where he's facing those charges of having fired a rifle in public. And he makes this comment about colored people in reference to the prosecutor and the judge, and argues that it's because they're colored or white that they're going to be unfair towards him as a black man. And one of his senior leaders in the party, a colored lady whose name I can't remember right now, she's a gorgeous, beautiful woman, rolls her eyes, is seen on camera rolling her eyes and shaking her head at the pure absurdity of that argument. And why? Because there is much like the naked emperor, people are beginning to see this. The fool is actually naked. He's not wearing a fancy dress. He's naked. He's an idiot. There is a collective realization that there is something happening in that party that is really alien to what they thought they were joining as EFF members, perhaps. And maybe that's why we're seeing its second in command literally saying, I would rather give up this plush senior position and go join another political party than have to put up with this idiot who so supposedly leads the party. Maybe that's what prompted the decision by Shivambu. We won't know because he hasn't formally actually made his reasons why public yet, but I would wager that these examples and these practices, frustrating as they may be for an average EFF member, were probably equally as frustrating to someone like Floyd Shivambu. People are not idiots. They can see when something is an absolute shit show. Excuse my language. But again, as I said, I want to just make this quick point here. In the same instance that I'm arguing that these ordinary members of the party, that other people outside of Julius are not naive, Malema himself is not naive. Because for as much as there are a lot of people say, oh, he's stupid, he's an idiot. I'm like, actually, no. Politically, he's very, very sharp. And to underestimate him would be super, super dangerous for you if you are his political opponent. Because in this happening, in this situation of Floyd Shivambu leaving the party, instantly, Malema himself comes out and says, well, I'm pretty certain there'll be more individuals who are going to leave the party. Which brings me to that next question that everybody is likely asking. Is this going to be a split in the EFF? Are we going to see the EFF literally internally break up either in half or a third or whatever? Like, are we going to see a significant number of people follow Floyd Shivambu and ditch the beret wearing red in tooth and claw commies? Are we going to see the EFF go into a panic, a turmoil, if you will, as people making a easy exit from the party? Well, I am not the only one asking this question. Malema himself intimates it in that same press briefing when he said the following.
It's not the only one. Jimmy Manyi has also resigned to go and join MK.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it right here for a second. It's funny how when he was joining, that is the person he's referring to, when he was joining the EFF, It was Mzwanele, man. He must use his African name. We're super authentic up in this bitch. Mzwanele, stop calling him Jimmy. But the moment that homie leaves the party, yes, Jimmy, man, he's leaving the party. Hey, all right, I'm gonna roll that again.
And there will be many others who are going to leave the EFF because they've got their loyalty and support to the deputy president. So fighters on the ground should be prepared for more people to follow.
Zakala.
And this should not serve as a point of collapse for the EFF.
Well, the jury is out on that one, dear Juju. Again, he himself is saying it. He's not naive. He knows that he's about to hear and see many, many more people leaving that party. And this is not a small thing for a party like EFF, because if you think about it, look at where they come from as EFF members. The overwhelming majority of EFF people, of EFF members, supporters, and the like, are former ANC people. And they're very much aware of the danger of what things look like when parties start to split like this. When you have certain figureheads saying, you know what, peace, I'm out. So they're not stupid. You can bet your bottom dollar there are internal memos and internal communiques within the party, basically from the senior top levels down to the very branches, saying, excuse me, keep an eye on who is saying what and who is lobbying who to leave the party. And this is one thing you'll quickly notice about the political left generally, is that any small thing that happens, it immediately makes them go into paranoia state. MK Party is a good example of that, where they've even refused to hold a elective conference to set up actual elected leadership, actual elected structures. They've postponed that indefinitely. And why? Well, because the spokesperson said, well, you know, you never know who's in the party, hey? We could be infiltrated by the ANC. Some people could be bought, etc., etc. It's on that reason why we can't hold a actual conference to elect proper leadership in the Umkhonto weSizwe party. That paranoia that happens there is the same kind of paranoia that's happening here in the EFF now, and that will likely play out in the next few weeks as they all now worry as to who's next, who else is going to leave. Hey, zakhala la wemadoda, zakhala. But again, don't take it from me. You don't have to like me to listen to what I'm saying and the analysis that I'm bringing you and go, actually, things might look very interesting over the next few weeks, over the next few months. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, as I summate, Shivambu has done the maths, the political maths, and said, you know what? Even though I'm the deputy president of this party, it's actually better for me, this is Shivambu speaking, of course, to actually leave here where there's all the certainty, even if it is a declining party, and go to a rabble-rousing, chaotic Umkhonto weSizwe party. And why? Because at least there he can rebrand himself, refresh his image, and use his experience of founding a party to gain influence in Umkhonto weSizwe party. And why would he make that calculation? Well, because Jacob Zuma is in his 80s. It is naive to think that that man is somehow going to lead that party for the next 5-10 years. It's simply stupid and naive. But hey, there are enough stupid and naive people to actually believe that. So maybe that's another thing. But insofar as Floyd Shivambu, he's done the math. He's done the political math, and he's figured, you know what? He's done the Zuma maths. I saw that comment. No, I digress. But he's done the political calculations and said, you know what? There's a very strong likelihood there that I, as Floyd Shivambu, will likely become very senior leadership or in the senior leadership echelon if I go there and help them form actual structures that can make MK Party a more stable leftist formation. That's his calculation. And this is why I was saying in my tweets that I don't actually fault Floyd Shivambu for doing that. It's a reasonable calculation to make, especially if you look at the chaos that is MK Party from an internal administrative perspective. So the two things are going to come out here insofar as where he might land, because that's the other question now. What is he going to MK Party to be? Did they promise him something? Is he going to join, I don't know, the top leadership, blah, blah, blah. I will make two predictions here. Number one, he will either join that party at a almost equivalent secretary general type level, where he's basically the party boss at an administrative and organizational level. Because right now, if you look at what's happening in MK, with it having problems with that position, literally firing and people resigning from it and clown world stuff happening there, they need someone who has strong organizational skills that can steady that particular ship. Excuse me. They need someone in a role like that. And who else better other than someone who's literally started another political party or co-founded another political party, i.e. Floyd Shivambu and the EFF. So that could be one place that he lands in. The other area, of course, where he could land in is that Floyd Shivambu considers himself a bit of a leftist communist intellectual, a policy guru in that vein. So he could land up perhaps being someone who is instrumental in drawing up the policy framework of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, where you might now formally start seeing, because remember, the MK Party is a leftist formation. They've always been that. They are leftist in a communist sense. And again, don't take my word from it. For it, go into my channel and look for that episode I did ahead of the elections, where I interviewed representatives from the DA, the IFP, we tried to get the ANC, but they bailed on us last minute. And of course, Umkhonto weSizwe Party, we spoke to Visvin Reddy. And I asked them about some of their policy beliefs, their positions, and they were lefties. They're actual lefties, they're commies. So they might then rope someone in like Shivambu to assist them to actually formalize their policy platform. So that by the time there's the next election rolls through, which is the local government elections in a couple of years, they'll actually have coherent policies that can put out to the public. So those are the two areas which I'm expecting to see Shivambu pop up. And to be brutally honest, if I was him, I'll be very happy to be in a position where he can reinvent himself and reassert his usefulness in a political party, and maybe then not have a glass ceiling of leadership, which is the case if you have a person like Malema as leader and seemingly not wanting to ever give up that position of leadership. At least in MK Party, Floyd Shivambu might make the calculation that, hey, maybe I can actually realistically more likely to lead MK than I'll ever be able to likely lead the EFF party, so long as Malema, party leader of forever by the looks of things, seems that the party's been alive for 10 years plus, but Malema is still the leader of that party. How? And for someone like Shivambu, he might be asking himself that same question, that this guy doesn't look like he's ever going to actually relinquish the seat of leadership. Sakhala lapha. Go be. And I can bet my bottom dollar that there will be an exodus of EFF people going forward. Don't be surprised to see that. Do not be surprised to see that, because that's what's playing itself out here. I don't know. You let me know. What's your view on this? What do you think this means for the EFF going forward? Is it going to split? Is it going to disintegrate and fall apart? Is it going to rebrand itself? Are we going to see maybe a different EFF come out of this, maybe stronger, or will it be weaker? These are all the questions that I'm sure a lot of you are asking yourselves. And yes, it does matter. It does matter, actually, because the EFF is the top 5 in terms of size political party in this country. So of course it matters. Are we about to see the EFF literally break apart and be absorbed by other leftist formations, which I argued are now back? Because I've always said this, and if you're someone who watches the show and you've been watching for years, I've always said, broadly speaking, that the political left, the hard left in this country, is made up of about 15% of the electorate, all in all, complete makeup. And in that 15%, you're going to see now people fragment and move to other options that are availing themselves. And those options might be more palatable to some people than the EFF and Malema. So maybe we're seeing the beginning of that realignment of South African politics. You let me know what your views are. Please keep the comments coming. I am reading them as I sort of talk here, and I'll read them after this. Because as I said, I know there will probably be, if my reading and obviously following some tweets is anything to go by, I've already seen 6 prominent members of the EFF intimating that they're out. They are, cheers, they're gone. And there'll be more. There'll be more. Because people are not stupid. They can sniff that actually it might be better if I'm a leftist to have my bread buttered, which is ironic because lefties and bread. If there's one thing commies have destroyed, and I can never deliver on his bread historically. But anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. But if there's one thing they're looking at from the situation is actually their bread might be better buttered on the MK side of things than here. Because MK, whether you like them or not, has shown itself to have serious potential, very serious potential, far exceeding anything Malema can lead. So this doesn't surprise me. This doesn't surprise me. But again, I'm welcoming your views on this. It'll be very interesting to hear what you guys think. Maybe you are an EFF supporter and you're watching all of this and you're saying, where to from here? I'll be very interested to hear from you. I know you guys don't like me, and that's fine. I don't like you commies either, but I still listen to what you say. I still listen to what you say, because even if I disagree with someone from a political sense, the whole notion of free speech is being able to hear each other, debate ideas. So I'll be very interested, pardon me, to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe you're an MK member, and you might be saying, yay, this is a win for us. No. But in any event, I'll be interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Because as a parting shot, I'll say this. There has been a big emphasis from this last election, given how bruised the hard left are, for them to rebrand themselves as, oh, we're the progressives now. We're the progressive, what do you call it? Caucus. I think that's what they call themselves. There's a big emphasis on their side to rebrand themselves and how they look, because they recognize that electorally they didn't do that well. After all that noise, after all that money that the EFF spent ahead of the election, to then come out with less votes as a percentage is embarrassing stuff. So there'll be many people who are saying, you know what, maybe we should leave and find somewhere else which is growing. And who knows, maybe this is the curse of a certain mutual bank in Limpopo. Yeah, maybe that curse of the grannies who had money stolen from them, allegedly by certain individuals in the EFF, maybe that curse is coming back, and that karma, if you will, is the expression I was looking for. Maybe it's coming back to bite a certain Malema, who's now bleak as F, as he sees his empire, his house of cards, collapsing. You let me know. You let me know, guys. With that being said, let me call it here. I'll be very interested to hear your views on this particular topic. Make sure you leave a comment, please. And whilst you're at it, if you're watching this broadcast on any of the social media streams that we're on, hey, how about you drop a like? Let me know by dropping a like that you're enjoying this particular content. And if you are watching on YouTube in particular, guys, subscribe to the channel. Help me reach my goal of 46,000 subscribers by the end of the year. You helped me break the previous goal of 45,000 this year. So let's reach 46,000 together. And guys, if you like the show, find me at bigdaddyliberty.com. Woo! With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. for another episode of Liberty and Friends. Until then, as I always say at the end of every broadcast, and it's very relevant right now, never trust a commie.